You are listening to the most original talk radio station anywhere. We are LA Talk Radio at latalkradio.com.
You're listening to Oscar's Guitar Shop with Oscar Jordan, right here on LA Talk Radio.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Thunderbirds are go.
Greetings and salutations. Hey now, my name is Oscar Jordan and welcome to another episode of Oscar's Guitar Shop. I'm Vintage Guitar Magazine contributing writer Oscar Jordan, and I am burdened with glorious purpose. Yes. How y'all? How is y'all doing? Yes, glad to hear it.
How y'all is?
We be good. How y'all? Y'all good?
Y'all good.
I'm very special today. Just want to say I loves you all. Happy New Year. It's a whole new year ahead of us. And we looking fine. I even shaved this morning. Yeah. People like it when I shave. The gray. That's just not good. People should shave. Sir, why didn't you shave? What's your problem?
Because I happen to like the gray.
He likes the gray. That's right. By the way, if you were saying, who the hell is this? This is one of my oldest friends. Cantankerous K, a.k.a. Paul Kennedy, but we call him Cantankerous K, right?
You can do that, yes.
Bassist extraordinaire, plays with John Marks's Blues Patrol. He's a cool guy, and he's here because we're just hanging out, because that's what guys do, hang out. Welcome to the Sausage Fest. Hey, happy 2014, everybody. It's a brand new year, and may 2014 be better than it was last year. We could use it, right?
That's right.
Last year was a brutal test of character. There's a lot of people out there who could easily be assassinated, me using esoteric Asian discomfort techniques. But, you're alive, and that's good, and I'm not in jail, so consider yourself lucky, because you could be murdered right now, because I am dangerous. Hey, by the way, check this out. It just occurred to me early this morning. This episode represents the 1-year anniversary of Oscar's Guitar Shop.
Wow.
This is the week of the first episode I've ever did. The first episode was with Josh Smith, bluesman extraordinaire, and it's been tough and trials and tribulations. I've interviewed some of the greatest guitar players in the history of the universe, and they've all sat in this room with me, and we've discussed personal issues that had nothing to do with guitar.
You might want to have this sanitized at some point.
I had Yngwie Malmsteen. I talked to Yngwie Malmsteen and asked him deeply personal questions. And you know what? I made him speak to me, and he gave it up. He gave it up right here.
Yeah.
He talked to me, and I cut through all the crap, and we got to the nitty-gritty. 52 episodes. 52. Oh, my God. It's 52. I don't know how I did it. Anyway, thanks for you guys for sticking by me.
Congratulations.
Thanks. It's been... thank you. I love you all. Thank you very much. Thank you all. Yeah, it's just been cool. I just didn't think it was going to last this long. But anyway, enough of that.
Good crowd tonight.
They are just magnificent. Would you like to help support Oscar's Guitar Shop? Go to oscarsguitarshop.com and click donations to the show. Share the magic inside your wallet. Also, Oscar's Guitar Shop is powered by, if you didn't know this already, True Tone Music. They've been with me since day one. True Tone Music. Visit them at truetonemusic.com, making your music come to life. Also, Performance Guitars, building custom guitars and basses for the biggest names in the music industry since 1976. Remember the 70s?
It's a little vague, but I do remember.
Yes, I had plaid bell bottoms, and I'm not going to show you any pictures.
Oscar, how old are you?
I'm pretty old. Let's move on now, because we don't want to talk about it. This is not an ageist show. We're not making fun of old farts on the
Whose show is this?
But I used to watch Good Times. I'll put it that way. Anyway, visit them at performanceguitars.com. You remember the 70s, right, Paul?
They were dynamite.
Dynamite. That's right. Want to become a sponsor? Email me at oscarsguitarshop@gmail.com. And now, it's time. Allen Hinds is a talented guitarist and songwriter who utilizes his superpowers for good and not evil.
But as far
With
as
an
you know.
eclectic array. You have an eclectic array, by the way.
Oh, thank you. I keep that in the back seat of my car usually.
Yes, he has an eclectic array of musical chops and influences that encompass jazz, rock, R&B, and he utilizes his skills in support of his artistry with inspiring results. See, he uses it in support.
What are you reading this from?
I'm an improviser.
Thanks, Greg.
Support of his artistry, not against it. Like a bra, he supports the artistry. In addition to creating his own recognizable musical footprint that blends an earthy and sweeping pastiche. Do you know that word, pastiche?
I do.
Pastiche of fusion, blues, and roots music. Hinds has recorded Heinz Ketchup. He's the heir to Heinz Ketchup, if you didn't know this. Has recorded with such high-profile artists as Gino Vanelli, the Crusaders, Roberta Flack, Patty Austin, and James Ingram. And that's just the short list.
That's a short list.
That's the short list, because it can go. I could just spend here like reading the phone book. He's also written for television, and he's a staff member at the Musicians Institute. His current solo album is called Monkeys and Slides. Ladies and gentlemen, meet Allen Hinds. Yes. I'm so glad you're here.
Thank you. You gonna eat that potato?
What a treat. Man, I'm going to be totally honest with you. The very first time I heard of you, which was like, I think about 4 years ago, I was running through YouTube, and there was this whole thing, how you put in Legato in YouTube in the search. Boom! There you are. Legato. You're the Legato dude.
I am the Legato dude.
You are the Legato Postmaster General of Legato. And so that's how I came upon you. And then I went, oh, this guy's pretty cool. And then some people that I know in the industry were saying, oh, man, you got to get Allen on, man. You got to get Allen on your show. And I went, that's the guy. And then I had heard some of your records before. And I went, yeah, well, hell yeah. And I had not heard your last record, but I'm just all over it now. And
cool, man.
It's just a really, really, really good record. And,
thanks for having me. First of all, this is kind of cool to be here.
What's it like being the Legato guy in the search engine of YouTube?
Isn't that weird? I never. That was no plan, of course. That was pretty much a result of my shortcomings in being able to play alternate picking style. When I was at MI, I came out here in 1985. And I've also had like a really strange way of holding my pick. Number one, I kind of stroked the string like that, as opposed to pick like your Mel Bay, method books would have you do. So I just kind of, they would have exercises and patterns for me to play, and I could never quite do them the way I held the pick. So I figured out a way to do it legato, which just happened to be the same time Allen Holdsworth was kind of hitting the scene, and of course he's a master of the universe on guitar, I think, So in my, attempts to try to sound like him, and really I was after more of the sound than I was the harmonic knowledge, because his harmonic knowledge is so deep that it wasn't really always for me. But his touch, like if you listen to some of the early Tony Williams records or Soft Machine, where you can kind of understand the harmony a little better, the touch is what was beautiful. I mean, people forget Allen Holdsworth can play like really slow, beautiful phrases. He's not all about blazing speed. But there's something about the legato sound that he was getting where you could pick like one note and generate enough energy to play seven,
right,
by either hammering on, sliding, or pulling off. It's a beautiful thing. And I think with the advent of, good pedals, good amplifiers, as they have, gotten better over the years, that plus having a really light right-hand touch with my pick, you can't, maybe I speak for him a little bit, you can't really, it's pretty seamless. You can't really hear where the pick is hitting when you're hammering on, because it's all kind of sounds like one kind of sound. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
It sounds more, maybe because of that, it sounds a little more horn-like.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
a lot
agree.
of guys do it. I'm by no means the legato first guy. There's so many guys, but maybe I was influenced by listening to the Schofields and Mike Miller, who's a local guy who's a great guitar player as well, who does a lot of like slippery legato stuff as well. But mostly Allen Holdsworth, because I wanted that sound, whether I could do it harmonically or not.
I was at the Baked Potato last night, and Ohm was there with Chris Poland, and that dude, he's got this screwed up finger, and he just does the legato thing, and it's just like liquid. It's just liquid. Yeah. But I want to go back to, so basically you weren't able to get the right hand thing going with the alternate picking. That's why you...
Right. And if you ever watched me play, I mean, as the first people who really noticed this, even before I did, really, because I never thought about it, but I was in Japan, and they were like really taken, and they would have like these like 3 cameras right up on my fingers trying to figure out what I was doing. And it's nothing to me. It's just I hold my right hand, I hold the pick, I kind of turn it sideways, and I hold it between 3 fingers. So when the attack is less of a pluck and more of a stroke, where I'm kind of doing that kind of across the...
Oh, wow.
I'll show you really quick. I mean, I don't know. I don't think it's any big deal, but to other people, they seem... I'm sure now, looking it's like this is the string.
Right.
I kind of do like that, as
Yeah,
opposed to picking like
You're brushing
sides
across it as
Yeah.
opposed to just chopping
with the
through
side
it.
of the pick. So it gets a kind of you kind of have a little sound before each note,
Mm-hmm.
which gives it a little character, a little I don't know.
Yeah, I noticed about you've got some particularly there's one video that you have. I think it's the Wagner demo where you're playing one of your instrumental tracks through
The
the
Alchemist.
Wagner. Yeah, and you don't hear any attack. It's really seamless. And for someone who like I was the opposite way, and everything sounded like I was chopping wood, and it just
Right.
If you're sick of yourself, that's the way to go. Is start picking every other note, and that's just that liquid sound is awesome.
I teach at MI. I've been at MI since '86, and actually I work at a new school called Shepherd's. It's called Cornell School of Contemporary Music. It's under the house of Shepherd University, and it's a new school. I teach there with Abraham Laboriel, Senior, and Otmaro Ruiz on keyboards, and Jimmy Branley. It's a great core faculty, and they're just getting started. But what I've noticed there and at MI is that a lot of students, coming up in the YouTube generation, a lot of them have incredible technique. I think it's just finding your own sound, whether it's by accident or whether it's by your shortcomings. Look at Django Reinhardt. When he played with his fingers all fused together, and he made it work really well.
Two fingers,
right? Yeah. So you can do whatever you want to. I mean, sometimes what is a shortcoming turns out to be your thing later on.
Yeah. Well, what distinguishes you, I think, is that that there's just become this whole world of guitar curriculum that you learn from these YouTube kids, et cetera. And I've seen a zillion kids who have that down, but they just kind of sound like fourth-rate Holdsworths, or like Greg Howe, or it just doesn't really sound unique. And you've kind of done your own thing with it, and I think that's because you actually write songs, and they go into the song as opposed to, oh, here's the technique, and it's just to show off the technique.
Well, thanks. Yeah, and probably the thing that got me into the guitar was not, blazing technique that I heard, and I went, wow, I've got to do that. And I'm 57, so I remember listening to Rubber Soul, the Beatles, when that stuff first came out. And I had older brothers and sisters who always had records around Jimi Hendrix and Otis Redding, and I heard songs, before I took to the songs before I cared about the guitar part. So actually in the last couple of years I've been going back to that whole thing. When I put on records at home, I don't put on guys with blazing technique because I could care. It impresses me less as time goes on.
You listen to old Joni Mitchell records, right?
I love Joni Mitchell. I do. Joni Mitchell, Little Feat, I think, is a band that when Lowell George was alive, just had some really. Whether you're a jazz guy or a blues guy or just a James Taylor song listening guy, Little Feat had some great stuff going on.
Yeah.
Lowell George was real special, and I don't know. And I listen to Pat Metheny, though. He's another guy who can take a real simple 3-chord, thing and make it just beautiful. And I guess that's what I like. If there's that magic is there, it doesn't matter if there's 50 chords or 3 or 4 chords. Yeah. It's got to have that certain musical thing to it that you can sing along with. And that's what my students. I guess that's the point I was going to make before. My students who come in, my little, open counseling is what they call it. It's a big room I sit in and kind of show off. At Musicians Institute, when students come in, a lot of them have a lot of technique, but I can immediately hear that, and I stop them. I say, okay, try to write me a melody for the first 16 bars of this song of your solo. Pretend like I don't have a melody to this song. I want you to write a melody that I can sing back. And so then it makes them stop. I say, okay, try this. Try singing along with your playing. That keeps them from going really fast immediately. And when they take breaths, they automatically take phrases and make phrases. So it's everybody has a certain musicality in them. It's just getting it out that a lot of people forget. That's the teaching. That's the thing you want to pull out of students is make them create music.
There's so many guys that because I teach as well, and they get caught up in the techniques of the guitar as opposed to the making music. But speaking of music, I'm going to go off on a tangent and cut in and play a song from your last record. This is the title track from Monkeys and Slides by Allen Hinds. I'm going to play this track. I'm going to do a commercial, and we'll be right
You know,
back.
I just talked about playing musical, and you're choosing. You just chose like the most notey song on the record.
It's not that
But that's
notey.
Okay. That's okay. No, thanks. That's cool.
We'll let people call in and they can say, "Oh, man, this is so notey, man. This is so notey." It goes like this. Yes. What? Yes. That's right. That was pretty awesome. Very, very, very awesome. Total.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you.
Awesome goodness. Yes. Nice textures. But hey, guess what? Performance Guitars has been making hand-built custom guitars and basses since 1976. Yes, they have. Their clients have included some of the biggest names in the music industry, including Frank and Dweezil Zappa, Warren DeMartini, Billy Sheehan, Steve Vai, and Joe Walsh. Their attention to detail, craftsmanship, great customer service, and on-site construction has made them a top choice for musicians the world over. Their guitar amp and effects repair is second to none. Their Corsair Guitar Series and YB Bass Series was created for the working professional who needs an instrument that can perform in a variety of musical situations. Their Frank Zappa-inspired effects pedals specialize in real analog and true bypass sounds. Performance guitars and basses will provide a seamless connection between you and the creation of great music. Visit them at performanceguitars.com or call 323-883-0781. That's 323-883-0781.
Or just drive down the street and see them.
That's right. They're in Coanga West, right down the street, next to Paquito Mas and
Baked potato.
Baked potato. Get yourself a potato and a burrito and say, "Hey, Coney, set me up. Give me a custom guitar just like Warren DeMartini." That's right. Hey, that was a cool track. But I have to ask you, I'm very curious. How would you categorize? Would you please sit down, people? These people. Oh my God! It's just how would you categorize your music? Because I mean, you're not only are you musician, but nowadays you got to be a businessman.
Well, I wouldn't really call it jazz, even though there's harmony going on that you have to think about, when you're playing solos and stuff. And I do the band that I usually play with live, they're all so great, and there's a jazz element in the fact that we improvise a lot, we stretch out a lot. Mm-hmm. But when I think of jazz, man, I think of I think of something a little bit more heady, a little bit more intellectual than my music. I hope it's melodic. Of course, as soon as you say anything like that, it sounds like smooth jazz. Melodic blues fusion, rock fusion, instrumental blues with a organic, mid-southern twist of, I don't know.
It's got a cinematic quality as well.
I like the layers. I like the moods, the textures can can give you. I mean, if you hear that's what's so cool about some of the Sting songs. For instance, I'm just using him for an example. It's like sometimes you hear like one pad and one acoustic guitar, and it's like, whoa, that feels great. Or movie soundtracks for that matter. You hear like one acoustic guitar playing two notes, and it's beautiful. It's all you need for one scene to make something feel really good, or a little piano cue. You don't need a lot to evoke emotion.
Mm-hmm. Paul, how would you classify his music?
Well, see, that's the hardest thing about classifying anything. The minute you put a qualitative quantity on something, you say it's this, then it sort of eliminates everything else.
Yeah.
And if you say it's fusion, that eliminates a lot of the blues elements that I hear in it. If you say it's prog rock, then that eliminates something else.
Well, I find people ask me this all the time because I meet people who don't know anything about me, and they go, "What are you? I'm a musician. Oh, what kind of music?" Well, it's instrumental, so they automatically, a lot of times they think, or if you say the word jazz, a lot of people think smooth jazz immediately. Or if you think jazz, if it's an older person, they might think it's like Count Basie or something, or Joe Pass. And I've studied all that stuff, and I kind of understand the harmony about a lot of jazz stuff. But I don't know. Hopefully it's melodic, instrumental, blues, fusion, roots type of stuff.
Yeah, I was going to say there's this element of your playing that's very earthy and rootsy, but on a kind of like progressive roots, kind of in a way.
Harmonically, I think I know I've tried to keep current. Keep current. I'm always listening to this stuff, but I know my stuff is harmonically. There's something there besides just a D Dorian scale. I get bored before anybody else does with everything. But at the same token, I grew up in Alabama. Maybe that's where I love the sound of just strings of the guitar. A good sounding. I have some friends that are great players. I won't mention their names, but when they judge a tone, they crank up an amp. a guitar through an amp with a bunch of pedals like it maxed out, and it's like you can't even really hear the beauty of the guitar. I mean, and to me, if I could have a good Telecaster through a deluxe, it doesn't have to be on more than 2, and you can just kind of feel the guitar and the sound. And that's believe me, when you know, a lot of people don't realize what that sounds like because they go into Guitar Center and there's a million amplifiers that are, you know, solid state this and a lot of effects. But I mean, if you ever sit down with like a 1965 twin reverb or an old mid 60s deluxe reverb and play like a great old vintage guitar through them, you'll see what I mean. It's like it's a subtle difference, but you can't get that difference unless you get like that combination of all the old stuff.
Yeah,
I'm a kind of a vintage guitar and gear, you know, not my guitars. I just love the way they feel. They're all a little different.
Ladies and gentlemen, Allen Hinds is sitting in this chair across from me, and he's got the coolest looking telly. Mm-hmm. And he let me play it earlier. And can you describe it a little bit? It's a parts telly. Yeah,
I mean, you know, all the Fenders were kind of assembly line guitars. You know, there's like a little lady smoking a cigarette, and the necks are rolling down an assembly belt, and she would pick them up and screw it onto the body. So there's nothing wrong with getting, you know, you don't. I mean, if you're a player and you just want a good sound, you don't really need 100% old vintage, you know, guitar that's going to cost you $40,000. You know, this one's is a 1953 neck, which has been refretted, which is part of the sound because it's that old wood. You know, I think even when they cut the wood for the guitars back then, the wood had already been sitting around drying out for probably 20 years before that. Anyway, the body is like an early '60s Tele body, so it's really lightweight, and the pickups kind of change monthly, but the ones I've got in there now, the pickups called the Illusion pickups, and it just sounds, you know, I don't know how to describe it, but there's something besides just the regular Tele sound that this guitar has. It has a lot of body and sustain and character. But I like the old stuff, you know. Maybe it's the combination of all the stuff, the finishes and the woods, and I set them all up myself, you know. I set all the action up at the nut with the file and try to get them to play nice and friendly.
Yeah, when it's what I like about it, it's very light, and I thought it was a kind of a V-ish neck, but you said it's a D neck.
Well,
it's got that big hump in that ridge in the back of the neck.
Yeah, but not as much as like a 57 Strat or something like that.
Right.
That's
nothing like that. But it's just it's very.
Maybe it's called a soft V. I'm not sure, but it's a Tadeo Gomez 53 maple neck, and I think it's. I don't know. I kind of have a feeling they would call it something like a D or a C. I get that confused sometimes, but maybe like more of a D.
Wow. And you know, and I got to thank you. I really appreciate you wanting to donate that guitar to me.
Oh, sure.
As an anniversary present for having been on the show for a whole year.
Well, you're welcome. Anything I can do.
Thank you, man. You're just the greatest. In fact, you're the greatest guest that I've ever had, that you're going to give me this guitar with all these parts that were created before I was born.
Okay. Sign here.
I want to play another tune. This is from your last album called Monkeys and Slides. The tune is named after me. My name is Oscar, and this song is called Oscar's Swagger. And I'm going to play a track, do a commercial, come back, and we're going to talk about layering.
it? Can you dig it?
Yes. Of course you can. Are you crazy? Are you out of your mind?
What's not to dig?
What's not to dig? Let me see you do that. Let me see you layer this funkiness and the great vibe and the swells and all that. Man, well, anyway.
The swells. I'm seeing a doctor about that.
I'm swelling right now, actually. Hey, what kind of place is this? This is not that kind of show, the swelling. Enough of the swelling. But by the way, True Tone Music, did you know that True Tone Music...
They're swell.
They're swell. True Tone Music is a virtual candy store for guitarists and bass players.
You don't say.
I say. They're world famous for having the best selection of new and used and vintage guitars in the Los Angeles area. Located at 714 Santa Monica Boulevard, in the great city of Santa Monica, True Tone Music offers the best selection and the widest guitars and basses and exceptionally high-quality guitars and basses and rent control ever. They stock name brands like Fender, Gibson, Epiphone, Gretsch, and much, much more. And it's right by the ocean. Check out their wide selection of Martin acoustic guitars. Martin, I don't know if you knew this, Martin is the leading manufacturer of steel string flat top acoustics and synonymous with handcrafted excellence. True Tone Music is where the top names in the music industry shop for guitars, basses, amps, and boutique pedals. They'll also match any online price. Now that's key. People don't know this. They think, oh, well, I'll just blah, blah, blah. No, they'll match any online price and they'll back it up with top-notch customer service and support. Visit them online at TrueToneMusic.com or call 310-393-8232. That's 310-393-8232. Walk in.
At these prices, they won't last.
Exactly.
You know how it goes?
Call before midnight tonight. Yeah, walk in and say, I want to talk to Ken. Oscar sent me. That's all you need. That's all you need. So, I was reading about how when you're recording, would you please sit down, man? You're the only woman here. There's no other men here but you. Oh, I'm sorry. Anyway, it's a sausage fest. Anyway.
It's no woman?
That's no woman. That's anyway. You don't, do you play keyboards at all?
No.
Okay. And so I noticed that you just say forget the keyboard player, keep the overhead low. And you use a lot of textures built from pedal steel, slide, things like that, and it just that's part of that organic feel that
Who's that
comes.
one? There's a composer, a guy. Is it named something Thorne? David Thorne, who does movie soundtracks and stuff. And I remember hearing something of his. It's just like this, like Ry Cooder could do sometimes. You can just take a slide guitar with some reverb and do some amazing stuff. Jeff Buckley would do that with reverb and slide guitar stuff, and you can get a lot of great paddy sounds with guitars. And since I don't play keyboards, if I want a pad, I'll get the volume pedal out with some delay and use my slide and tune it whichever way I want and kind of finagle things. And my problem is sometimes I record like that because I don't have I don't play keyboards. And then after hearing the song for a month or so, I can't lose the part because I'm so used to hearing that sound in the background. I've been criticized. Some people have said that I layer a lot and too much, and I should just do a trio album. And I go, that's cool. And then there's other people who say, oh, that's kind of part of your sound. Every time I listen to it, I kind of hear something different. So I don't know. It just is what it is, and it came out the way it did, and I liked it at the end of the day.
I think that's a valid point. I think over these last 4 records, you've kind of created this sound that's evolved from the first record, and I really think that's a part of your sound, is the textures and the overdubbing of these great parts. It's very cinematic, and I can't help but feel that you being a Southern gentleman coming from Alabama, that has to be part of you. There's a rural feel that comes out of that.
Well, growing up in Auburn, Alabama, which by the way they're playing the BCS championship game on Monday, which I'm relatively excited about. Mm-hmm. Go Tide.
Go Tigers.
Go Tigers, exactly. These are tied.
No. They lost yesterday.
They lost last night, yeah. I heard a lot of pedal steel, a lot of country music when I was growing up. I was never a big fan of some of the real commercial, but some of it is just wonderful. Some of the Nashville, organic Appalachian stuff is Just great. Well, my favorite album in the last 10 years has been Sean Colvin, A Few Small Repairs. I don't know if you know that record, but every song is great. And the textures, this guy named John Leventhal, who's I think is the best producer out there. It's just he makes these landscapes, these soundscapes that are just take you someplace, and they're really harmonically. Yeah, it's not the deepest fusion in the world, but there's definitely some cool stuff happening there, and it's musical. And she writes great songs and sings great. But that's kind of what I wish my albums sounded like, because there's always something kind of interesting going on in the background that you always notice after you've listened to it 100 times and you think you've heard. It's like listening to old Beatles stuff. You always kind of hear something different when you listen. You kind of go, oh man, I never noticed that stupid tambourine part out of time in the background. But yeah, so I like the layers, and once I get used to them, it's hard for me to lose them. So I'm guilty of having too many guitar parts probably in my track.
Yeah, you have I think part of being a guitar player, I think, and I tell my students this, is that having good taste, is in terms of like note selection, and in terms of tones, and everything fits really well together. How do you integrate those that's kind of rural landscape, the sonic landscape? Let's say you have this pedal that I'm trying to segue. I'm segueing into the pedal portion of the program. The AH1, the Allen Hinds distortion pedal. Because you used to be in a Swedish death metal band years ago, but now you've gone rural. How do you bridge those two worlds together?
I don't know how to answer that question. I'm leaving. Well, I mean, I don't know. Finding a good pedal it's a real personal thing, and a lot of pedals feel good, but they don't sound good. They can have a nice feel under the fingers, but they sound real buzzy. Or if you get the buzz out of them, they don't have a good enough feel. So it's kind of a combination of both those worlds for me. Because I press down so hard with my left hand, it's got to have enough compression in the pedal to make a note sustain really nicely and thick. But a lot of pedals are just really overly compressed, and the EQ has a lot to do with that in the pedal too. So I just turn a couple of dials. I hate pedals where you have like 15 dials on the front of it, and you don't know where to begin. And even though so I like the simplicity in a pedal, and one that just feels good under your fingers, and you can still hear the wood of the guitar.